Welcome to the ITSP Magazine Podcast Network, a modern, innovative multimedia platform, broadcasting ideas and connecting minds. Every company has a story to tell, from the small startup to the large enterprise, and everything in between. This is one of them. We hope you enjoy this brand story conversation.
All right, here we are. We are in San Francisco for RSA Conference, where everything is about security, right? And governance.
All security, all governance, all the time.
You have to know what's going on with the security. You have to govern that too. So I'm thrilled to have a team from LogicGate here. We're going to have a nice discussion around AI governance and some of the challenges organizations have with respect to how and where AI gets used, how does it impact the business, how does it impact security teams, and I presume you guys have had a lot of great conversations leading up to the conference and as well here. So let's start off with each of you introduce yourself, your role, what you're up to.
Yeah. So, well, first of all, Sean, thanks for hanging out with us and talking to us. My name is Matt Kunkel. I'm the CEO at LogicGate, one of the co-founders. And prior to LogicGate, I spent over a decade in consulting, building custom GRC solutions for big banks down to small mom and pops to help them operationalize and automate different aspects of their security, regulatory risk compliance programs. And took all those lessons learned and put it into a product that we now call the Risk Cloud platform to help organizations operationalize and automate those different aspects, all the way from big corporations who want it very customized and flexible to where they are on their risk and compliance maturity level and journey, down to smaller SMB folks that just are on their first starting out on their security and risk journey, and they want it out of the box, and they want time to value quickly, and they want it ready to go. So being able to support both sides of the spectrum on that with our platform.
I love it. I'm excited for this. I'm a geek for risk and broader GRC, so we're gonna have some fun here. Nick.
Yeah, and hi, I'm Nick Kaufman. I'm the CISO here at LogicGate. Been here for a year and 4 months roughly. My background is I've been in cybersecurity for 20 plus years, tech before that. Prior to coming to LogicGate, I ran security compliance and our MSSP function for a company called VirtuStream. We were the cloud division of Dell. So the world's largest SAP and Epic hosting provider. We had 3 of the world's largest SAP instances, and I think all 5 of the world's largest Epic instances. So highly, highly regulated, over 72 attestations, multiple FedRAMP clouds, DoD clouds, et cetera. So ran, again, our security and compliance of the cloud managed services ourselves, but then we also offered security services out to those really large customers. Prior to that, I ran security and compliance for a really large storage cloud. We were the back end for a lot of storage clouds that you would use still to this day as daily names, but we ran the storage for them and they ran their compute kind of on us. And prior to that, I was with RSA for a while running security for products like Verified by Visa, MasterCard Secure Card, Amex SafePass, JCB Secure, etc. So going back even further, critical national infrastructure and healthcare. So kind of in my hands in a whole bunch of different buckets, but what I'd say is really good is having worked with so many customers across so many different verticals, I didn't get to see how just one company does cybersecurity. I got to see how 200 companies did cybersecurity and work with their CISOs and their leadership team on how to run that properly.
This is an important point because I'm sure a lot of the people listening and watching will resonate with what I'm about to say, and there's a regulation, right? Mm-hmm. Many of them, depending on where you operate and how you operate and what you're operating for. That can be nuanced for each business, right? Depending on the tech stack you use, the data you collect, and of course certain industries and sectors have some commonalities, but there are differences there. And then there's this non-regulated, right? There might be some frameworks you have to follow, there might be some other guidelines you need to follow, but then there's also the internal stuff, right? These are our beliefs, these are our values, this is how we want our teams to function, this is how we want our partners to interact with us. There's no regulations for that. It's just these are policies that we want to adhere to, and that changes how we deploy our tech, and how we deploy our security and how we govern all of that stuff.
And I would argue that that's actually more important. Don't get me wrong, the regulators are great and they're there for a reason, but I would actually argue that what you just talked about there last is the most important part, because at the end of the day, what you're doing is you're building through these security programs, risk programs, controls programs, compliance programs, you're building trust with your customers and with your partners. And trust is, I think, one of the biggest assets that you can have with a customer and a partner. And if they, in this day and age where data is shared so seamlessly back and forth through different platforms and different vendors and different partners, if they don't trust you to be a good steward of their customer data, then they're not going to want to work with you. They're not going to want to renew with you. They're not going to kind of continue the partnership with you. So Nick jokes about it all the time. He said, Matt, good security pays for itself at the end of the day, which is true. There's so many things that he has done with his programs and his security teams that I can point to and he can point to, and he does when budget season comes up, very quickly to say, listen, look at what we did with XYZ partner, with XYZ customer, and how easy it was to onboard them, how the time to value when you're going through a security assessment and it's taking days and not weeks and months, and dramatically shakes sales cycles around M&A activities. So there's a whole host of things that I think more than ever boards and folks like myself, CEOs of companies, are starting to realize that security and compliance and risk is actually a strategic business driver and not a cost center within an organization.
That's exactly it. It's really what you outlined is the difference between compliance and governance. Compliance being external regulatory or external frameworks, via governance is what we're going to hold, the standards we hold ourselves to. And we like to say, we hold ourselves to higher standards, and it shows with the type of customers and the type of industries and the Fortune 100s, Fortune 10s that we can go after as a result of this. And really what it's done is, because we've been able to up-level and run our security, not just internally as we run it and not meeting a minimum bar of some compliance framework says we have to do this. Because remember, most compliance frameworks they learn from the mistakes. So somebody already had a major mistake, and then they said, we need to do something about this. How do we fix that? A year and a half later, 2 years later, it makes its way into a framework, and then it gets pushed down and used that way. We like to stay ahead of the curve and really, bat above our weight from a security governance perspective, so that when the really large banks, when the really large financial institutions, whoever come out and say, show us what you're doing with this, in a lot of cases they're looking at it saying, wow, that's really good, we should be doing the same thing. And it closes the deal cycle significantly, it increases the deal value significantly, and just makes the whole process so much easier. So yeah, it's good security pays for itself.
Yeah. Absolutely. So the reason I set that stage is because there's some things that we don't know what the rules are yet. Right? There's a big one that everybody's always talking about. So we're going to spend some time talking about a 2-letter acronym now. That's on the minds of many. They're trying to figure out how to. They don't want to get left behind. They're going to embrace it, right? And maybe in some places, and they're too afraid to do something in others, so they want to put some controls in place there. And regardless, it's going to impact a lot of the organization, a lot of the functions, including security. And they haven't figured it out yet. We're talking about AI, right? So what are some of the conversations that you're having with organizations that say, we need help to understand how we need to look at this, right? How does this map to how we operate in terms of ethics and goals and morals, as well as industry standards and regulations we have? How does that all apply to us? How can we then take some steps to enact on what our understanding of it is for our business?
It's a great question, and I think it's one that is probably more top of mind with customers right now than really anything that I've seen over the last 10 years. And I think folks are handling it in two ways, right? Which is, way one is the wild, wild west, where everyone is implementing AI models, everyone is building their own models, everyone is just putting it into their programs, whether that's a product program or internal programs, and that's one, and there's certainly a lot of risk and challenges with that. And the other way is the absolute opposite of that, which is everyone's locking it down. And there's problems in that too, in the fact that they're not innovating fast enough. I think everyone would agree that over the next 3, 5, 10 years, everything is going to be laden with AI, right? And that's just going to be the new norm, right? Almost like the internet was back in the 90s. So you need, as an organization, you need a way to what we call move with speed and efficiency, but do that in a secure manner, right? And being able to first understand, right? Where are all the different aspects of folks around our organization that are using AI? And then how can we link that? How can we have an approval chain, approval process, and understanding? Because if you don't know where it is, then you can't make smart strategic decisions on it. And then when you say, okay, here's what we're doing around AI, well, how does that link up to the standards? And the standards are coming, right? The UK AI Act is out. NIST now has their NIST AI standards with RMF that are coming. And then how do you then link that to different policies or controls? Even in my organization, a lot of people were excited about ChatGPT and wanted to use it. Nick uses it all over. But 6-9 months ago, we didn't have any policies internally. We didn't know what was acceptable and we didn't know what our risk tolerance was for AI. So you have to define those and have the company understand what those are, and then be able to link those standards to what you're doing with AI. So it's really becoming, I think, a big spider web of the approval, and then third parties too. What are the third parties that we work with? What are their AI acceptable use and acceptable standards? And being able to bring that in. So there's a lot that goes into our new AI governance solution based on feedback from our customers of, we have the Wild West and we have do nothing, and both of them are wrong, and we need to meet somewhere in the middle to move with speed and efficiency on being able to bring AI, whether it's from a product perspective or whether it's internal operations, to bear with our company and our customers. But we also have to do it in a safe, secure manner, right?
Yeah, I think it's quickly becoming, the next privacy. We've got the EU AI Act, we've got the US government has their own, the NIST has their own, but now each state is coming with their own as well. So it's quickly becoming another privacy impact where you're going to have all these different frameworks to crosswalk and map and make sure that your controls go across all of them. So it's going to be really, really hard. But then also, when you look at what the impact of AI, it's not just how you use it in your product or how your sales team can use it to write emails and things like that. It really expands out, as you said, this third-party risk management and even beyond to supply chain. Like if I'm a large company and I'm risk averse to AI and I just ban it flat out and block it everywhere, but all of my vendors are taking my data and using it and spending it off, I say this still ends up there anyway. So you have to now start going out and reassessing all of your vendors, and not only are they using it for their own internal use, but are they incorporating it into their products. So now it becomes a third-party risk management issue, a supply chain issue, a use case issue internally and how it benefits you, and just a compliance regulatory headache in chasing all of these emerging standards that in a lot of cases conflict with each other. So it really requires a holistic approach to how you manage AI.
And so it's easy to say let's support technology safety with technology, but I think it requires a mindset first, right? Of understanding what you're trying to achieve and having that initial assessment of what's where, how's it being used. So do you find organizations are at that stage at the moment, or?
Yeah, I think where people, well, first of all, I think they're not even at that stage left. I think most of them, that's why I think we've gotten a lot of great feedback on our AI governance solution, is they don't have a way to manage it, right? They don't have a way to understand just where is all the AI being used across an organization. So when you're thinking about these large Fortune type organization, multi-billion-dollar organizations, there's pockets of AI being used either within product or within business operations all over them right now. And they don't understand, or there's none. And that's a bad thing too, right? Because it's stifling innovation. So really being able to understand where it is, understand what the approval chains is, what the authority is, what are the acceptable use policies of this. To Nick's point, what are our third parties doing around this? And then how does all of that relate to the regulations that are inevitably coming on this? And having Nick used the right word here, which is holistic approach to your AI governance program. But it starts with understanding, right? You can't do anything if you don't understand, what is the magnitude of the problem? How much are we using, or lack of that, how much are we not using where we should be using AI within organizations? So we are just on, the very, very tip, I think, of a very big iceberg of AI governance. And I think, if I project out over the next 6 to 12 to 18 to 24 months, many organizations are going to have to, whether it's with the Risk Cloud AI governance or something else, are going to have to enact AI governance within their organizations.
Yeah. I would say even worse than not using it all is your employees are using it, you don't even know. Yeah. So now you've got the whole shadow AI aspect of it. So I was joking with some of the people that worked with me before, is I now call it GRCP AI, because now we're going to have privacy and AI as well to add into it. So the acronym is just going to keep growing. And so now you've got essentially, even if you ban it, your employees are using it. Whether they're using their personal accounts on their phones and going back and forth or whatever it is, and now you can OCR from your phone directly from your computer screen. It's really easy. So they are using it. So it's understanding what they're using and how it's using it, and then just also reading the different, just read the terms of use for all the different AI use cases. So even you could have 6 different vendors that have implemented ChatGPT from OpenAI, and that is very well defined on their website, their terms of service. But then how each of those 6 vendors then implement it, some of them will actually tell you every prompt you send to us is ours to keep and use how we want to in perpetuity. Now, if you're sending your code through that means they own your source code, and they own all of your IP. So you have to be really careful about understanding what they're using it, how it's being used for what level of data inside of your organization, what the impact of that is. There's really taking your asset classification and all of that and making sure that it applies very heavily to all those third parties and all those use cases that you have, and tracking them very closely and having some type of review and approval process before it gets to that point.
So talk to me about the platform and solution that you've built. Give me a story of a customer going, wow, I had no idea, or I expected this and something else surfaced. Give me a story or two.
Well, I'll go first and then I'll let you jump in. I think one of the largest grocery chains in the world is implementing it right now. And it was something that, and again, we just launched this, right? We've only launched this less than a month ago because of the amazing customer feedback that we got around, hey, we need help in this area. There was many, we categorize them as enterprise, multiple billion-dollar software, banking, insurance. And the other thing is, this cuts across every industry. This isn't hey, AI is just for banking or it's just for pharma. Every single industry is going to need a way to understand, manage, approve, and govern their use of AI within an organization, right? And we were, I think, very uniquely qualified to very quickly be able to spin up a cohort of applications. So obviously it's about collecting what we're doing with AI internally and the approvals around that and the documentation around that, but it's also linking that to the regulations that are coming out. It's linking that to what third parties are doing and being able to understand our third party posture with AI, linking that to the regulations, and then what our own internal controls are and policies, and how are we making sure that our internal employees are reading and attesting to those, and then linking that in. So it's a very nice spider web of information within these different applications, but it starts with just the core of understanding where the AI use is within the organization, understanding do we want to approve or not approve that, and really even more than the technology, it starts at one level up, which is the culture. What is the culture of the organization around our AI use? Are we at a spot as an organization where we think that there's just too much risk because there's too many unknowns yet with it? And the culture here is we're going to really shut it down and only the most highest priority things are getting approved? Or are we at a spot culturally where we really believe in what AI will do for that company or that industry or the organization, the community, and we want to open everything up, and we're going to be our risk appetite is going to be a little more with that.
I think it's a big thing here is really it's tying it all together and figuring it out. So I'd say a lot of customers, as we were exploring this with them and talking to them about it, they were like, oh, in my head, all I thought of as AI governance as just use case management, essentially like a submit this and do a security review of it, and that's it. They didn't think about how do we tie this into cyber risk, how do we tie this into enterprise risk, how do we tie this into CPRM, how do we tie this into all these other frameworks that you need as well. So I think the biggest thing that we found is customers are really appreciating our thorough approach to it, where it is actually what you identify from a third-party like AI question is a cyber risk against that particular use case. Yeah. And if you're using it internally and you define a new risk in it, it goes into your enterprise risk register or your AI risk, your cyber risk register. So it's just like everything else. It's just another aspect of security that we have to now maintain. It just comes under a different guise and how it gets there, but it comes in so quickly and it comes in so rapidly. So, what I'd say is, if you're an expert on AI and any of the new LLMs and generative AI right now, in 3 months you'll be behind. You'll be way behind if you don't keep up with it. So not only do you have to get your generative AI governance in place, but the cadence has to be much faster. You can't just do an annual review of what you would do in normal use cases. So what we've done is now that you can tie it into the risk register, you can put expirations on risks. So it'll automatically send out and say, you need to review this on this cadence to understand what changed. Did something change? Did they use a new model? Did they go from GPT 3.5 to 4? Did they do what else at that?
Or the reg came out.
Yeah.
So it really allows it to speed up that cadence and keep up with the emerging technologies until it becomes stable enough that you can start backing it off and throttle how fast you need to be based on where the industry is at the time.
Nice. Well, it's exciting. I mean, we just scratched the surface.
Yeah.
There's so much to it.
I'm sure we could talk for hours on this topic, and maybe we will. I'd love to do that. Matt, Nick, it's been great chatting with you.
Likewise, Sean.
Congratulations on the launch. I hope to hear good stories of positive impacts. Obviously, visibility and control and governance on this stuff is key. So.
Yeah. Excited to do it again next year and tell you how it goes.
All right.
Thank you very much for having us.
Everybody, please do connect with Matt and Nick and the LogicGate team and check out the AI governance solution. And everybody listening, watching, thanks for joining. Here from RSA Conference. More to come. See you soon.